Hello and welcome to Hey Clarity. I'm your host, Lindsay, and today we are opening the Akashic Records on trust. It is T week of the Alphabet Superset. More information about the Alphabet Superset is down in the description box below. Opening the Akashic Records on trust, the questions that we're going to ask today are: what is trust? How do we cultivate trust? How is trust repaired after being broken? Why is trust so hard to embody? How can we sustain trust in our lives? And what's the most important message we need to know about trust? So let's get into it. First question: what is trust? They're saying bonds melting bond connection. And it's this, like, they're kind of saying like fusing of energies, like just be, like I can just be here. I can just be who I am with you, with them. And so they're saying like, it's a little bit of, they're saying like, be the one place where I can be me. So it's the bonds, the connections, the people where they're saying like, who can I be? I can be myself. The places where we can completely let our guard down. They're saying guardrails, like everything comes down. Interesting, they're saying guardrails, almost like even like hitting the guardrails. They're saying like even like the messiness. They're saying throughout it all, I can be myself, who I can be myself around. So that is what trust is. They're saying like bond connections melts. It kind of melts into like one, but different, right? Like, again, you can be yourself. You can be your individual. They're saying like energetic makeup with someone, and they're like comfortable. Anything else? What is trust? They just said melts, and they're like, just be the one, just be the one. See what that means. See how that unfolds. They keep repeating that. Just be the one, just be the one. Oh, they're saying to trust myself, who I can become, who I am becoming. They're saying like, trust in myself, trust in yourself. How do we cultivate trust? How do we cultivate trust? They're saying it's beyond measurement. It's something that's like known or unknown. So it's like they're saying, who can I be myself around? That's the trust. And beyond measurement is like, they're saying it's like not logically measured. It's not literal, but it's like exactly known. It's felt. They're saying like embodied, like in your being. Like I know, I'm getting know thyself. Know thyself, know yourself around others. Oh, okay, so they're saying first and foremost, just be the one. You're the one. You're trustworthy to yourself. So cultivating trust, they're saying it starts within you. It's like trusting yourself and trusting who you are. And they're actually saying that's all that matters. If you trust yourself and you trust who you are, you know who you are. They're saying know thyself very clearly, very well. Then they're saying like others can trust you. They're saying can abide by others because you trust yourself. And so they're kind of going like, it almost like, it doesn't matter like how much I trust you. Like if it's known or unknown, if it's established or not established at all. They're saying it doesn't really matter. Like all that matters is like, they're saying know thyself. Like all that matters is knowing yourself. How do we cultivate trust? They're just saying within first and foremost. They're saying if you don't know yourself, can you be trusted with others and around others? And they're like, not really. If you don't know yourself, they're kind of like, they're saying like, there's not much to bank on. So they're just saying, know thyself first and foremost. Like that's where trust begins. And they're showing this little like bead of like light, like this little bead of light growing big, 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 almost like a pearl of light. Like it's tangible. It's like, I know myself. I know who I am. Like I exist. I am here. Like these are the parts of me. I know my reactions and responses to things. I know myself. They're saying reactions. There's so much like triggers, growth, learning, like knowledge, wisdom, personality, ego, persona, like so many things that like kind of come out of us, that fly out of us. And they're like getting to know each of those parts of you. And that they're saying they're ever changing and exchanging, There's something about impermeable and permeable, but they're just saying like follow yourself, like know yourself, track yourself, your behavior patterns, your belief systems, your core values. They're saying who you are. And they're saying in between like you and others, there's a space between you and others. Barriers, they're saying. There's me, like the foundation, and then there's this space between, this barrier, and then there's another person. Something about the space in between. They're saying the difference between others and yourself. They're saying within. First. How is trust repaired after being broken? They're saying timing, timeline. They're just saying it's very hard. Like it's much harder after. Because there's something like one side of a bond like was melting and like I can be myself. I can let my guard down. I can relax. I can be here. I am who I am. This person knows who I am. There's like an unconditionality to it, even in the messiness. And then they're showing this other like energy like slipping away. Like, wait, like I was melting, I was comfortable. And like, you're gone. And like that, I'm not comfortable anymore. So you go from being comfortable to uncomfortable. They're saying like there's a retraction of like the melting. And it's almost like the melting is like subdued and like very relaxed. And then suddenly it's like, oh, like he's gone, she's gone, they're gone. And I just feel like they're almost showing that like the melting in that same way, like can't really happen anymore. It has to change, it has to shift. So it's like, it's like, they're kind of saying it's never gonna be the same. So whatever, it's never gonna be the same. Like they're saying it can be repaired, but it's gonna be different. It can be repaired differently, but it's never gonna be what it was. And they're just like, never, like it can't be. Because it's like the trust was broken, like something happened to the thread, the cord. Someone was like resting and comfortable and someone slipped away. So like, it's like, what happens to this cord, this thread in the bond? So how is trust repaired after being broken? They're saying like it's different. It has to be differently. It has to be done differently. It can be different, but it can never be the same that it was. So it's either like it grows into something else. They're showing like broken bones. Okay, like a broken bone, and then it heals, but it's never to be the same. It's not going to be exactly the same. And they're showing like kind of like, now they're showing like, they're saying scar tissue and like even like broken skin. Like when something's broken down, like patching it back together, it's never the initial fuse. It's never the initial kind of like seamless connection of the thing. Like anything that breaks, it's very hard to like repair exactly as it was. There's always going to be this like remnants of the thing. And so they're kind of saying like there's acceptance and allowance and like forgiveness and self-forgiveness and understanding and compassion and moving forward. Like they're saying those are the ways to move into the difference. But they're saying the hardest part is like the acceptance that it's never going to be the same. It can't be the same. It has to be different. The bond is going to go in a different direction. If there's growth, they're like, great. You know, if there's growth, great. If it can be mended, can it be better? Well, it can be better if it's different, if it's done differently. But there's like mourning and grieving of the fact that it's never going to be the same. And they're saying, and it's okay, like that's okay. Like things can be mended, but the mourning and the grieving needs to be released and experienced on both ends in order to repair it, of just saying like, okay, like we're never gonna be what we were. It's never gonna be what it was, and that's okay. But they're saying like, are there better days ahead? Like there can be better days ahead. And who are we becoming now? And then it goes back to the know thyself. Like you have to get back to knowing yourself. And they're kind of saying like to be rigid is to like break again, right? Rigid just kind of keeps the brokenness. And so it's like, what's the new comfortable? You know, what's the new way that we can melt? What's the new way that we can fuse in this bond, this connection? Is there a way? Or is there no way? Do we want to leave this broken and go our separate ways? Because they're kind of saying like chance and choice, like broken trust is an opportunity to reconsider the bond, the soul connection, the relationship. And it's an opportunity. So they're like, these are the benefits of broken trust, is like, do I actually want this connection? Do I actually want this person in my life? They're like needs, desires, satisfaction, fulfillment, purpose, growth, learning, changing. Like, are we growing? Are we blooming? Like, is this bond connection worthwhile anymore? And so they're saying sometimes, like, you know, again, the benefits of betrayal and like broken trust is they're saying like forced reconsideration of the connection. Do I really want this? And they're just saying, or like, was I just kind of complacent? Was I too comfortable? Was I like stuck in this being too comfortable and like melted and fused with this person? They're saying it's opportunity for growth, you know, together or separately. But either way, like beyond the pain and the mourning and the grieving of the broken trust and how uncomfortable that is, they're saying pain and suffering, like what that is, because you're mourning what was, you're mourning what the bond and the connection was. They're saying it can be no more of what it was. And that's the hardest part. That's the hurtful part. They're saying like, and it was somewhat like beyond your control. And they're saying that's very uncomfortable. It's like thinking that, they're saying having the expectations, feeling prepared for things, and then having kind of like the rug pulled out from under you. It's like, okay. But they're just saying consideration, like this, it's reconsideration opportunities. Is this really what I want? Do I really want this to be a part of my life? Do I really want this, they're kind of saying, this part of my life anymore? And so they're saying for a lot of people, it's an opportunity to break free from certain behavior patterns, from the same environment. And they're like, it's new chances, new choices, decision-making time. But they're saying after the grieving in the morning of what was. So like they're saying it's a loss, it's a loss. And mourning and grieving, pain and suffering is very uncomfortable and totally normal. Very normal experience. And they're saying like, always to the end of something. What was, how we were, how I was, how you were. Now what? What's next? Next level or no level? Is it done? It is done. So it's just like, they're just saying reconsideration. And that when something is broken, there's always going to be the remnants of that experience, right? So they're just saying like, it's going to be there. Like you can't really, it's like a benchmark in the timeline of the connection. This thing happened, broke the trust. What did we do? Did we go our separate ways? Come back together? Did we stay the course? They're like, not really. Like you can't really stay the course because it's never going to be the same. So they're saying acceptance and allowance. Why is trust so hard to embody? No one else can do it for you. That's what they said. No one else can do it for you. No one else can make it happen but you, yourself. Why is trust so hard to embody? They're saying it takes listening and silence and self-awareness and self-reflection, getting to know yourself. And they're like, singing to yourself, getting to know you, getting to know all about you. They're like self-reflection. They're saying it takes time, timing, timeline, time frame. Like you have to take the time to get to know yourself. They're like busyness. Like if you're just like distracted all the time or keeping yourself distracted, or if you're like focused on others and you have no self-reflection, no time for self-reflection, you don't make time for self-reflection, you can't really get to know yourself. And they're saying, and that can make it really hard to trust yourself and then others. They're saying if you're externally focused, if you're looking outside of yourself for answers, they're saying you're not embodying yourself. You're not paying attention to yourself. You have to listen to yourself. And they're showing like silence and quiet, meditation, rest, solo time. They're like solo adventures. They're showing someone like getting away and going on vacation by themselves, or just like they're kind of saying like significant time, like taking some significant time away to getting to be by yourself. I'm like, what are your thoughts when you're alone with yourself? They're like, you're not alone. But they're like, what's your solo time self-reflection like? What do you like to do? What do you feel? How do you feel? What do you want? What do you desire? What are you not getting? Like you need that time out. You need time outs to get self-reflection. Why is trust so hard to embody? They're saying embodying reminds yourself of who you are, who you get to be, who you're meant to be. Embodying trust is, they're saying, the requirement to be yourself. Trusting yourself, embodiment, the key to the embodiment of trust is knowing yourself. And self-reflection, silence, time alone, solo time is kind of the only way to get to do it. Because like everything else is like so distracting. Like they're saying outside noise. Like you need the silence and the quiet to check in with yourself. And they're saying like, yeah, like you can have reflections of yourself through other people, but they're also like, not really. Like, they're like, yes, but also like, you need that time. I'm just getting like, we imprint on each other so much, and they're like, we're so empathic and sensitive to each other that like, we're getting confused and mixed up, and we're thinking that like other people are reflecting themselves onto us, but they're like, a lot of times we're just getting bombarded with projections, and those are not reflections. They're saying not all reflections of others are like yours. It's very, very likely just mostly they're saying people's projections and judgments and ideas and thoughts that you're seeing and feeling and witnessing and observing from others. So they're kind of saying like not to really bank on getting self-reflection from others. They're saying like you do it yourself, like you do it by yourself. How can we sustain trust in our lives? How can we sustain trust in our lives? They're just saying, know thyself, know yourself. Get to know yourself a little better every day. And they're saying you're also ever changing. So like who you are today is not necessarily who you were yesterday or months ago or years ago or decades ago. And they're like lifetimes ago. They're like, we carry parts of ourselves from the past, but growing and becoming and learning, and we're ever changing. We're always evolving. Like the evolution, and they're saying re-evolution, evolution, re-evolution. Like we're just always evolving. And so that's why it's important to keep getting to know yourself, because they're saying like, because you're ever changing, you're not locked into one person. They're like one person at a time, like one person at a lifetime. They're saying you can become like multiple people in your lifetime, in your lifetimes for sure. But even in one lifetime, they're saying multiple persons, like you grow and change and become, they're like, you know, we kind of check in and categorize like childhood, like adolescence, and then we go like decades, like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And they're like, we give those like timelines as like kind of these like, they're saying categorize like these check-ins of like age and like who society demands of us, what society demands of us. But they're saying, but who you are is very different. Not necessarily based on these chunks of age, these decades, these ages. They don't necessarily represent or reflect who you are. So again, with like, don't bank on the outside as being reflections of who you are. Like it has to come from within. It has to come from inside of you. They're saying you decide who you are. Like it's a choice. Like you decide. You check in and you're like, I think I'm that person I was because of how people treat me, how people talk to me, what they talk to me about. But I'm very different than that. I feel very different than that. And they're saying it's really confusing when other people see you in a certain light, in a certain way, and that's not even who you are. But they're saying like being noticed for who you are, and like allow the ever changing in yourself and in others. They're like, don't, like no pigeonholes, like don't pigeonhole. Don't keep yourself, don't they're saying it's like, it's very hard. They're saying it's like, it's very hard. Self-reflection can be very hard. There's so much, they're saying like outside influence from others of like who you are to be and who you are. And they're just kind of like, it's not really true. Only you can figure out who you are. Only you can figure out. Only you can tell yourself who you are. They're like, other people can try. Yeah, they're like, they can try, but it's up to you. And I'm getting that, like, you might have an identity crisis and really freak out if people see you a certain way and they're like dominating your life experience. And it's not who you are. Like, you're gonna have serious, like, they're kind of saying, like, mental and emotional behavior patterns, almost like short-circuiting, they're saying. Like, if you're living a life that is a lie to you, that is so, they're just kind of saying it poisons you. It's so poisoning to your soul. Like, they're showing someone just like, almost like reeling inside of a shell, just like, they're like trapped in this shell and they're just moving like, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this. Like, get me out of this. Like, I'm not this. Like, who am I? Like, who am I to be? Like, I got to break out of this mold. Like, this thing is not who I am, but everybody sees me as this. And I've like solidified this shell, this character of who I am, but that's not who I am inside. And so, like, it's very important. It's very important to be who you are. And they're saying, like, not the conditioning of who you are, not the external outside influences telling you who you are, but who you actually are. And they're saying, like, there's more freedom than you think to be who you are. Like, they're saying modern times, like these days, there's an openness to fluidity and allowing for this change and to be ever changing. They're saying it's more common now. They're saying in like the very past, like a long, long, long time ago, we weren't quite like under each other's microscope, watching each other, looking at each other. So we had more freedom to be who we were. It's like we weren't being watched all the time on, like, you know, things like social media. We weren't recording ourselves. So we had a lot more freedom to just like live in daily life as like whoever the kind of saying, like, whoever the fuck you are. Like, there was a lot of freedom because we weren't like under a microscope being watched or putting ourselves out there to be watched and judged. And, you know, they're saying observed. It's like really under a microscope. They're saying it's so damaging that we like lock ourselves into these ways of being when we don't even know necessarily who we are. And they're just saying ever changing. So how can we sustain trust in our lives? They're saying, like, get to know yourself and be yourself and know that that's ever changing and know that there's growth and learning always. It's always happening. So having the time and the self-reflection to check in. They're saying trusting yourself, it almost doesn't matter if you trust others because you can lean in on yourself, you can trust yourself. And then I'm getting other people who trust themselves. They're kind of saying, like, you stand beside each other. I can be me, you can be you. You stand really tall and really strong beside each other. And they're kind of showing them like leaning in, kind of like putting their heads together, like leaning on each other's shoulders. And it's less of this like melt. I just said like codependency. Something about desperation. They're saying we're like all mixed up about relationships and like what it means to be in relationship, what it means to be in connection with somebody. They're saying your expectations, like preparation, allowing, accepting, like the pain and suffering of relationships, holding on, letting go. They're saying it's complicated. They're like, it's complicated. Relationships are complicated. Connections are complicated. But they're saying it's so very simple if you allow and accept the growth and ever-changingness, the growth and ever-changingness that's bound to happen. And that these breakdowns of trust, these rifts in the bonds, are opportunities of reconsideration. like check-ins. You know, should I stay or should I go? Is this the end? Is this the beginning of something new, something else? Or is it over, you know? What's the most important message we need to know about trust? What's the most important message we need to know about trust? I'm like feeling the pain in my heart of betrayal. They said if it hurts like that, forget it. Forget it. They're saying let it be forgotten. Move on. Because I'm getting that there's like, they're saying lack of trust, like long term for a long time, is not worthwhile. They're saying it's not worth anything to be bonded in a connection without the comfortability, without the trust. Because also it's like, who are you? Like you don't know who you are. Maybe they don't know who they are. And so I'm just getting like lack of trust is not worthwhile long term. If it's like a short-term experience and it's a growth experience opportunity, you know, but I'm getting like the damage. They're just saying move forward, move on, like take the opportunities to let it go, to get away, to go away. Like the bonds are broken. And some of them, they're saying some of them can't be healed. And in like this desperation of like trying to heal them, there's just more suffering, like more pain and more suffering of like, just that awful feeling of betrayal in your heart. It's like, they're saying it like really doesn't go away. Like you have to go away. It doesn't really go away. There's always going to be this little bit of like a hole in your heart, the loss, the mourning, the grief of what was. And unless there's like this massive transformation in like both people of the connection, where you can see a new life together or see each other in a new life, in a new light, and they're kind of like in like reconnect. If it's a romantic relationship, they're like fall in love again, unless you just like fall head over heels in love again in a new way. They're saying it's rare, but people hold on in the mourning and the grieving, like stay stuck in the mourning and the grieving because there's no allowance and acceptance. This is an opportunity for reconsideration. Like, do I actually want this anymore? I'm getting like, am I missing parts of you? Did I not, this idea of you, like, am I missing something? Am I missing parts of me? Am I missing parts of you? Like I missed something. And they're saying like missed opportunities. It's just a huge, they're just showing this like hook. It's like a huge unhooking of the connection. It's an opportunity to unhook. It feels more just like it's time to go away. Anything else? Most important message about trust? They're just saying like go away for yourself. Like something new ahead. There's always something new. There's always someone new. They're saying there's always somewhere, a place to be. And like, there's like a new place to be, a new person to meet, new people to meet, new friends. They're saying family, like we get really stuck. We feel a lot of stagnation because of the grieving and the mourning. And we need to have the recognition that there's pain, there's pain in loss and suffering in mourning and grieving. And then there's like the allowance and the acceptance of like, it is over, it is the ending, it is the ending. But then there's also like the new opportunities and, you know, the unexpected, the unknown, the mysteries of like, what's next level. You know, they're saying, who can I become after this? Who can I become afterward? Who can I become after trust is damaged? How can I repair the trust in myself? And now they're saying self-reflection. Like sometimes these breakdowns of connections, these separations, they like force the alone time, the solo time, to have the self-reflection, to be like, who am I? Who was I? Who do I want to be? Who am I right now? Who am I becoming? You know, who was I before this? Who can I be now? Who am I going to be after this? It's very of the self. It's very knowing of the self. You just keep saying, know yourself, know thyself. And there's like liberation and freedom in that. Because there are always lessons learned, right? There's always lesson learned about yourself, about others. They're saying times, current events, like so many things affect our connections, our relationships, our trust in ourselves, our trust in our world, our trust in other people. There are so many outside influences that impact, they're saying fear-based conditioning around trust, like to break us down to not trust ourselves, to not have this time of self-reflection. They're like, you have no time for self-reflection. You do no reflection. There's no self-awareness. They're saying very little. Like, it's unfortunately not common for us to self-reflect and look at like our lives and get to know who we are. Like, there's so much bombardment of all this like external outside distractions trying to get us away from like knowing ourselves, who you are and who you are to be, is what they're saying. So they're like, take your time, like with these things like trust, with the development of self-trust. They're saying self-realization, self-acclimation, recalibration, and other things, they're saying. But they're saying, like, trust yourselves. Trust yourselves. Know yourself and learn to trust yourself because you know yourself. Ask yourself, who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? Who am I becoming? Who I am becoming? Who I want to be? Okay, interesting. Anything else before I close? It's like when you trust yourself, people pop up beside you who are trustworthy and worthwhile to trust. But it really starts over here. Okay. So that was the Akashic Records on trust. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know how that resonated with you in the comments section below. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.